Do you know why the rich buy assets? You might think it's to make more money or to be able to retire early, but trust me, that's not even close. In fact, most of them don't even care about making more money. They already have enough of that. So what is it then? Well, let me tell you. But before I do that, I need you to smash that subscribe button so that my YouTube algorithm can see that you find value in these videos. And then, once you've done that, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. You might not like what I'm about to tell you, but there are 3 reasons why the rich invest in assets. And the last one is by far the most important. Reason no. 1. To keep their wealth growing. This is something that most people don't understand. When you have money sitting in a bank account, it's actually losing value over time because of something called inflation. Inflation is basically when prices go up and the value of money goes down. For example, if you have $1,000 today, in 10 years' time, due to inflation, that $1,000 will only be able to buy you $900 worth of stuff. That means the value of your $1,000 has gone down by $100. Now, it doesn't seem like much, but over time, it adds up. And this is why the rich always have some of their money invested in assets that grow at a rate faster than inflation. This way, they make sure that their wealth is always increasing and they don't lose any of its value. The problem is that most people don't do this. Instead, they keep their money in a savings account at the bank where it's earning next to no interest. Or they spend it on things that lose value even faster, like vacations or luxury items. So instead of getting wealthier, they actually get poorer. To illustrate this point further, imagine 2 people, both of whom have $1,000 to invest. Person A decides to put his $1,000 into an asset that earns 8% per year, which is around the average return of the stock market. Person B, on the other hand, decides to just keep his $1,000 in cash in a savings account that pays 1% interest. Now, after 1 year, Person A's $1,000 will have grown to $1,080. Now, of course, this is just a hypothetical example. The actual returns will vary depending on the asset and how long you invest for. But the point is clear. If you want to keep your wealth growing, you need to invest in assets that generate more income than cash. And the best part is that thanks to the internet, it's never been easier to do. There are so many different ways to invest these days. You don't even need a lot of money to get started. But I have to warn you, just because it's easy doesn't mean it's risk-free. In fact, some investments are so risky that you could end up losing all of your money. That's why it's important to do your research and only invest in assets that you understand. Don't put all your money into one basket. And be prepared to hold on to your investments for the long term. The last thing you want to do is panic sell when the market takes a downturn. Reason no, 2, to avoid paying taxes. Yes, that's right. One of the biggest reasons why the rich buy assets is to avoid paying taxes. Let me explain. When you earn income from a job, for example, the government takes a portion of that income in taxes. This is called earned income. But there are also other types of income out there that aren't subject to as much tax, such as rental income from property, dividend income from stocks, and capital gains from investments. These are called passive income. Passive income is taxed differently than earned income. It's usually taxed at a lower rate. And there are a number of strategies that investors use to reduce their tax burden even further. For example, they might invest in tax-advantaged accounts like 401 kiloseconds or IRAs. They might also take advantage of tax losses to offset their taxable income. All of this means that the rich don't have to pay as much in taxes on their investments as they would on their earned income. According to a recent study by the Congressional Budget Office, the wealthiest 1% of Americans pay just 24% of their income in taxes, while everyone else pays an average of 30%. That's a pretty big difference. Of course, this doesn't mean that the rich don't pay any taxes. They do, but it does mean that they pay a lot less than everyone else, and with the average American paying around 30% in taxes. You can see why the rich are always looking for ways to reduce their tax burden. It's not just the tax rates that are lower for passive income, though. The rich also benefit from other tax advantages that aren't available to everyone else. For example, they can often deduct expenses related to their investments from their taxable income. For example, if you own rental property, you can deduct things like mortgage interest, property taxes, and repairs. You can also write off depreciation, which is an estimate of how much the property will wear and tear over time. These deductions can save the rich tens of thousands of dollars each year. And it's not just individual investors who benefit from these tax breaks either. Corporations do too. In fact, corporations receive even bigger tax cuts than individuals because they're taxed at a lower rate. This is called the corporate tax rate. The current corporate tax rate is 20%. So if a corporation makes $1 million in profit, it will only have to pay $200,000 in taxes. The remaining $800,000 can be reinvested in the business or given back to shareholders as dividends. This is one of the reasons why corporations are able to grow so quickly. They have a lot more money to reinvest in themselves than individuals do. So yes, the rich do pay taxes, but they pay a lot less than everyone else, because they have access to lower tax rates and a variety of tax deductions. Reason? No. 3. To leave an inheritance for their loved ones. This is probably the most important reason of all, and it's something that most people don't really think about until it's too late. The truth is that the rich buy assets not just for themselves, but for their families as well. They want to make sure that their loved ones are taken care of, even if they're no longer around to take care of them. That's why you often see wealthy families passing down their fortunes through generations. It's not because they want to be greedy or selfish. It's because they want to make sure that their family is set for the future. Most wealthy families have a plan in place for what will happen to their assets when they die. This is called an estate plan. An estate plan typically includes things like a will, trusts, and insurance policies. The plan will dictate how the family's assets will be distributed after they die. Most wealthy families want to avoid probate court, which is the legal process of distributing a deceased person's assets. Probates can be expensive and time-consuming. So many wealthy families set up their assets in such a way that they don't have to go through probate. Another reason why the rich buy assets to leave an inheritance is to preserve their wealth. As I mentioned earlier, inflation can erode the value of money over time, but assets tend to appreciate in value. So buying assets is a way for the rich to protect their wealth from inflation. By leaving an inheritance of assets to their loved ones, they can ensure that their family will be able to maintain their standard of living even after they're gone. I know what you're thinking. Surely the rich don't really think that their kids deserve all that money, do you? Well, I'm here to tell you that the rich think about their children very differently than most of us. The rich believe that their children are entitled to the same standard of living that they had. They believe that it's their responsibility as parents to provide for their children and to ensure that they'll be able to succeed in life. That's why you often see wealthy parents giving their children trust funds when they reach adulthood. A trust fund is basically a sum of money or assets that are held in trust for someone else. The terms of the trust dictate how and when the beneficiary will receive the funds. Trust funds allow the wealthy parents to provide for their children without having to give them everything at once. The kids still receive the money, but they have to wait until they're old enough to handle it. This also encourages the kids to work hard and be responsible. If they know that they're going to receive a windfall at some point in the future, they're less likely to engage in risky behavior that could jeopardize their financial future. Of course, not all trust funds are set up this way. Some wealthy parents use them as a way to punish their kids for not meeting their expectations. But that's a topic for another video. In conclusion, there are 3 reasons why the rich buy assets: to keep their wealth growing, to avoid paying taxes, and to leave an inheritance for their loved ones. If you want to become rich yourself, then you need to start investing in assets. Don't let the money just sit in a bank account earning next to no interest. Put it to work and watch your wealth grow. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.